Two middle-aged guys try to work it all out. Two middle-aged guys try to work it all out. Two middle-aged guys try to work it all out. Welcome, everyone, to this episode of Two Middle-Aged Guys Trying to Work It All Out. I'm Chris, and as always, with me is my good friend...
Dave 2.
Oh, Dave 2 with...
yes, the upgraded version of Dave.
That is exciting. It's good that you've been announced and that pre-orders are available soon.
Oh, we stopped the pre-orders. We had to stop the pre-orders.
Oh dear. Well,
maybe they'll be out soon. But I have been announced. I exist. I have a C button, and you can flip me over and use me like a mouse. All that stuff I said kind of sounds dirty, and I never really thought of it. But anyway, let's just keep on rolling. Let's keep going.
That'll just excite people for the pre-orders. You'll be fine. If you couldn't tell, our topic today is the Switch 2. And not only the Switch 2, but we're going to go back a little bit and talk about Switch 1. But before we get into that topic today, Dave, I have a question for you to just get us in the mood to have this conversation. And that is, what games have you been playing lately?
What games have I been playing lately? Well, I've been playing quite a few. I'm one of those people who... if I'm reading a book, I'm reading a book, right? Can't read 2 or 3 books at a time. Not smart enough for that. If I'm watching a show, I generally speaking try to limit the number. And if I can binge the show, I'll just binge it so that I do limit the number. But games, I can play all kinds of games and not and set them down and come back to them months later and not worry. The first one I am really invested in and having a blast with is on the Switch, Nintendo World Championship, Nintendo NES World Championship. What a great, fun, genius little game. Love it. And I love the challenges. I did not think I was going to enjoy it. I had 2 good friends. One, you, who said, "I'm not sure this is the game for you." And I took that seriously. And another, Anthony from the Retro Gamers, who said, "I think this might be the game for you." And I think I will give him. I gave him a hint that I did not give you, which is how much I enjoy NES Remix. He said, "Oh, okay. I think it's not quite the same, but it's close enough, and it's probably close as you're ever going to get." So I got it, love it, and I'm doing something kind of unusual with it in that I am like playing through to completeness on it and insisting that I get A+, the absolute top ends on every challenges. I'm gonna like totally compete it, and then once I've done that, then I'm going to join the online competitions. Right? I'm like practicing. I'm working out. This is the montage where Rocky is in the barn in Russia doing those crazy setups, and Batman's lifting giant monster truck tires, getting ready. No, that's the game I'm playing. A couple other games I'm playing. Playing Splatoon 2, which captured my heart. I would not have guessed that. What a great game. Of course, Mario Kart Deluxe 8. How can you not play it? It's the perfect family game. And then I'm going to throw in one that I haven't been playing too terribly much recently, but have gotten into, and I'm gonna really follow through on it and finish it. Is Super Mario Odyssey, because holy buckets, that's a great game, and it deserves to be played.
Yeah, it is a fantastic game. It's a game that I think is made from just 100% pure joy.
Yes, and hats.
Yeah, and hats that have eyeballs on them. So it's excellent.
What are you playing? And hey, if you would, obviously, I just said all Switch games. In fact, did I do all first-party Nintendo games?
Yes, you did.
I think I did. Boy. I think I did. So why don't you throw some in and throw in some other stuff, some maybe some PC gamers, or maybe like an old Tiger Electronics LCD game that Mix it up here, Chris. We're losing the audience, man.
Yeah, I will mix it up, and I will go with a PC game. However, your speech at the beginning about how when you're reading one book, you're only reading one book and one show, et cetera, I completely am on board with that. I'm the same way, but I'm also that way with games as well. So I only have one answer to this question, and that is I've been playing Metaphor ReFantazio, which is a big, meaty, like 80-hour JRPG game from Atlas.
Very
the company
Italian.
That makes,
it's a delicious Italian game.
Yeah, it's not. No, it's a
Is it a
very
metaphor
anime
for a delicious Italian game.
It could be. It's a metaphor for a ReFantazio, whatever that is. But it's a very anime, kind of stylized game, turn-based combat, fantasy world. So it's one of these big RPG games that I am off to play. So that's what I've been playing.
Can you give us like a point of reference, right? Like it's kind of like X, so that because that is an obscure title. I mean,
yeah, it is. So it's kind of like the Persona games, which may also be an obscure title.
Pretty obscure. I am familiar, but that's darn obscure.
So to go even broader, it's kind of like Final Fantasy.
Okay, there you go. That's in the cultural...
But it's different. I mean, it's, for the people that know the games out there and hear me say it's kind of like Final Fantasy, we're going to get some hate mail over that. But okay. I'm just trying to find a point of reference for you.
All right. For me, Chris dumbed it down for Dave. Please don't. If you must hate on someone, hate on me. Because I did not know what was that game called? Wedding Soup Gaspacio?
Metaphor ReFantazio. Now, to be fair, I do think it's a pretty pitiful name. I'm not a fan of the name.
Does the name mean anything at some point where you're like, oh,
not
now
yet.
I understand? Okay.
No, I'm pretty early into the game, but so far it has no bearing on it whatsoever. It's just they thought it sounded cool, I guess. If it does result in like there's a plot twist that it suddenly makes sense, I'll let you know. But I think that is the biggest miss of the game so far right now is the title. But everything else about it is coming together, and it's really being an impressive a playthrough. So,
all right. We have had several conversations about video games on here. And typically speaking, we're, going more into that retro scene, more of the, what we played when we were a kid. Today, though, we're talking about a system that is current, right? Yeah. And which is unusual. For me, right, to even own a current system is kind of an unusual thing for me, which I do own a Switch. But we're going to talk about the life and times of the Nintendo Switch, and then also the announcement, the Switch 2, what it means, what we like about it, what we don't like about it, and just kind of talk through that, and see where the Switch lives in the pantheon of game history and where we think the Switch 2 might go. So, Chris, why don't you kind of maybe set the scene here? When did you get your Nintendo Switch?
I got it as quickly as I could. So it was launched, and it was launched with great excitement and fanfare, and it was hard to get a pre-order, and it was hard to find it in stores. And I even told my dear wife at the time, I was like, look, the moment I see one on the shelves, I'm buying it, and you have to be okay with that. She was like, yep, I understand. And so it was probably 3 months or so after it launched that I was finally able to find one. Wow. And I just wandered into Best Buy one day, and there was a single system sitting on the shelf, and so I grabbed a copy of Breath of the Wild, and headed up to the checkout line. And then when I came home with it, my wife was surprised. She was like, I can't believe you bought a Switch. And I'm like, how was that confusing? I goalposted that as much as, or signposted rather, that as much as I possibly could have. And as soon as I see one, I'm buying it. And so that's what I did. And we played Breath of the Wild. I played through it, and then my wife played through it, and she has gone through it multiple times. I was kind of a one and done with that game, but she's played through the whole thing multiple times. She ended up having to get her own Switch, and it's been a constant in our household. So pretty much since 3 months since launch.
Now, does she have her own Switch? Is it like a Lite, or is it the full thing?
It's the full Switch. My son has a Lite, but that was never the system for me. Like I was like, why would I go for that? I want the Joy-Cons that can snap off. I want to be able to dock it, all that kind of stuff. Now, if Nintendo's listening, and I know they are, if they made a clamshell Switch, I would buy it in a heartbeat, because I have this weird obsession with clamshell consoles. And I'm sorry that we never saw that, but
I totally see how it could be doable. I do.
I know.
Yeah.
It would be perfect, but they have not done it yet. So, nope, just regular Switches for me.
So, now when you got your Switch, 3 months, I mean, that's early, pretty early, but, also that was a long 3 months for you, I'm sure. Did you get any of the, like, special ones, like Animal Crossing edition or whatever? Or?
Yes. So the first Switch that I bought, the 3 month one, was just the gray one, because that was the one that they had, right? I would have taken any of them. But when they did the Animal Crossing special edition one, I was very excited for that. I loved the pastel controllers for that one. I just thought it looked really nice. I loved the dock with Tom Nook and then, or the, not Tom Nook, but the nephews, whatever their names are, and the little island scene. And of course I love Animal Crossing. So I was super excited for that connection as well, and that released right as COVID hit and lockdown was happening. So that Animal Crossing Switch has a very soft spot in my heart, and it is still my daily driver Switch to this day, is the Animal Crossing edition.
So the old one is that your old broken one?
Yeah, it is, as a matter of fact. Yeah, I was going to trade Dave for my old Switch and pulled it out of storage, and it will not turn on or charge. And I so far have not been able to repair it.
Man. Get it fixed. I know you can do it.
See what I can do.
Yeah.
It's, the battery's bulging on it, which does not make me feel confident.
Oh, that's not a good sign, yeah.
No, it's not. But it lived a very long life. It was passed down to one of my children at one point, and then they decided this is not good enough. We're going to go for an OLED Switch. So in my household, I think we've probably purchased 6 or 7 Switches over the course of its lifetime.
My house, we have 2 Switches. My regular Switch purchased used. And then we have 3 docks. It stays docked in our bedroom. We have a nice setup in there to play, both just console, sit down console games. But we've also got a nice place for me to play Wii Bowling or Switchboard, whatever, Wii Sports, Switchboards. I'm gonna call it Wii Bowling because that's what it is, right? It's a nice setup for that, and a little tennis when I'm feeling like it. It's perfect, so it stays in there. With the the actual factory dock that it matters with the Switch one. We have a little tiny port replicator dock that hangs out in the living room that I have in a drawer with power and a tiny HDMI cable, and I can quickly move my Switch into the living room anytime people come over and, hey, you want to play Mario Kart on the 75-inch TV and surround sound? Let's do it. I mean, it could be running in seconds. Love it. And then I bought my son a dock for just a cheapo dock for his bedroom. He also has a Switch, which he has a Switch Lite, is what he specifically asked for, and then he got it. It's like, oh, I really should have asked for the actual Switch. It's better in every way. So any listeners, if you've got a regular Switch and you want a Switch Lite and you want to trade, hit me up. I'll throw some money in and we'll make a deal. Listener, that was the deal Chris and I were talking about. So I think it's yellow. I think it's a mustard yellow or whatever. It's actually, or banana yellow, I think. But it's fine. I'll hold on to it and play it, and it's like, hey, But I don't see the Switch as a handheld system. I see the Switch as a as a home system that could also be played on the go. No failing in Nintendo's part. It's just I'm not a handheld gamer. So, I see it, as a great home system that, bonus, can be played on the go. I'm sure that there are others who see it the exact opposite. And I'm sure there's others who and those probably get the most value, see it as a perfect 50-50, blend of I can do everything at home and on the go. Who could ask for more, right? And it's, what brilliance in 2017 when this hit our world after the period that was the Wii U. And I think maybe just for a second there, let's talk just a little bit about how we got to the Switch, because I think it's a little bit important, right? So Nintendo had the GameCube, which was their foray into disc-based gamings, got away from cartridges. Not a huge success, but I mean, I think to those who love games and love Nintendo, man, there's a soft spot for the GameCube. It's a pretty awesome system.
It's had a good life, right? Like at the time, it was very disparaged, and it was kind of like the Nintendo faithful. Because it was viewed as the kiddie system.
Yeah.
I mean, I really think that's what it boils down to.
No, I hear you.
Yeah, and the Nintendo faithful, had to defend it and say, no, there's really some excellent games on this. It was also underpowered. So GameCube was really the first system that Nintendo came out and said, we're not interested in keeping up with the number of pixels or the storage capacity or anything of that nature.
Sure.
Right? Because before then, the Nintendo set the bar. The Super Nintendo was, leaps and bounds above that. The N64 was competing neck and neck. And then the GameCube goes up against the PS2 and the Xbox. But there's a clear discrepancy there.
Yep.
Like the GameCube is simply not as powerful.
Yep.
The game discs were those small little mini CDs. They didn't hold as much data.
Yep.
And, still you had some incredible ports on the GameCube, but you had some games where everybody was like, this cannot run on the GameCube. And then that kind of became Nintendo's mantra for every system that they've made thereafter. But what is unique about the GameCube...
Before you go to that, it was at a lower price point than its competitors. I believe that it was $100 lower at launch than its competitors. So it wasn't just like they were, here's something that's less, but you'll buy it because it's Nintendo. There was an attempt at being focused on games and not on entertainment, not on DVDs, movies, not on audio CDs or whatever. It was all about the games, and they gave you a value price to go with it.
That kind of generation, it was really a kind of like a Game Bros kind of moment, right? I mean, like the big games were Halo and Call of Duty and Unreal Tournament. And that's what everybody was playing. And then the GameCube launches with Luigi's Mansion, so it was a very different kind of like
sweet game,
experience.
Yeah.
And then even though GameCube had shooters and it had Resident Evil ports and like that kind of stuff, it was always viewed as, it's the kiddie system. And I'm not advocating that stance. I think that's flawed, but it had to overcome that. And so the hindsight and the real victory of the GameCube is how it's viewed now. When people look at it and say, amazing system, amazing library. And it's one of the more expensive systems that you can collect for if you're buying original hardware and original games.
Is there a game or games that you could say, that was the turning point? That's when it went from being the kiddie system to this is capable and hardcore and valid as anything else?
I don't think it did during its lifetime. I think during its lifetime it was third. It was always third, and it never saw any kind of appreciation.
Sure, no, it was always third, but the respect started. At some point you don't see a game where the respect. Okay.
I think it's all hindsight. I think it was probably after the Wii that it started getting any kind of attention.
Okay, I am going to say that I think that there were two games that I think that is certainly amped it up. Maybe didn't get it enough to be recognized and respected the way it should have been, but amped it up. Of course, both first party, Twilight Princess and Metroid Prime. I think that they both were not kiddie games. They both had an incredible amount of depth and looked absolutely fantastic for the generation that they're in, not just the hardware that it had. Particularly, I think Metroid Prime did look really good on the GameCube. Maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe I'm rose-colored glasses. But I felt like, that towards the end there of their lives, especially Twilight Princess, they got a nice injection of some first-party quality that didn't quite, make the system a legend, but helped build the credibility a little bit.
What's interesting is Twilight Princess launched as a launch title for the Wii at the same time it was released as a GameCube version, right? And it was just because Nintendo had promised that this was going to be a GameCube game, and they held to that. And I point that out because the same thing happened for the Wii U and for the Switch during that transition. That Breath of the Wild launched as a Switch launch game while launching as a Wii U game as well. And it's really interesting that happened twice with Zelda. Yeah.
I think some of that can be the ridiculous development cycles for these Zelda games. But you know what? This isn't a GameCube episode, and nor is it a Wii episode, so we should move on. But it is important. There's some history and context, because the failure or maybe the missing the mark with the GameCube then led to the Nintendo blowing off the doors with literally they blew Jim Morrison away. That was a joke. And if you like The Doors and Wii, guys, go check out a previous episode. We have an episode about the Wii, and we have an episode about The Doors. And at no point do we connect those two things, but maybe if you listen to them, maybe you'll find like a Wizard of Oz Pink Floyd moment where we kind of sync it up, and I don't know. We don't. But
if you play both episodes simultaneously, you'll get a secret message. Yeah.
Yes, while playing Wind Waker backward. Nintendo blew just totally innovated and said, "Hey guys, I know you're going next gen. Games are gonna look better, control better online. We're doing something totally crazy. Oh yeah, we're also gonna be cheaper than you, and we're gonna work and look just as good on the old TVs as we do the new TVs. They didn't have HD, which is kind of seems kind of crazy, but it certainly didn't hurt them in any way." When they sold 100 million Switches, something like that. Let me go to my notes here. Wii's. Wii's pushed one. I was looking at the Wii U. 101 million units of hardware. It looks across the entire world. Across the entire world. Something insane. Followed up, whereas context, GameCube, 21. So they blew the doors off, and you've got this whole new way to interact with games. You can also play games with the traditional controller and traditional styles, although they didn't release a ton of games that way. So it was really all about this new way of playing. It was really all about the Wii Sports grandmas. I mean, I don't, maybe I'm overselling it a little bit, but it did bring a bunch of folks into gaming that otherwise, would not have, because it was cute and clever and most of all, fun. They brought the fun, right? Nintendo did. And then, not that I want to spend a lot of time on that, but just then they come out with the Wii U, which is like kind of like a Super Wii that people didn't understand. It's a great system. It does everything that the Wii could do and more. It had with it a controller that had a screen on it that felt like it could do more. It should have done more. It should have been used more. It really wasn't. And if the thing is, if that thing got lost or broke, your Wii was pretty much useless, and it was more expensive than the actual console itself. And that was, I mean, that only pushed a little over 13 million worldwide, which, oh boy, that was not a success for Nintendo. So there you got Nintendo, you've got, on top of the world back in the 16 and 18-bit days, fighting through the 3D days, finding its place with the Wii and motion controls, following that up with a poorly, not a bad system, but a poorly marketed, positioned system. And they got to do something big and innovative. In the interim there, they released a few mini consoles, which were awesome and everybody loved. Because it was in between that period of time where the U and the Switch that they did the mini consoles. And I guess, I don't know, like, if that was just to keep people in love with Nintendo. It certainly didn't portend anything for the future. Maybe it was just revenue. I don't know, right? I don't know. But then you got it. 2017. It drops, and what drops is as innovative as anything Nintendo has ever done before, including the Wii, more innovative. It was everything that people thought they might get out of the Wii U if you just looked at the hardware and thought, ooh, think about what this could do that it really couldn't do. The Switch did. You could take that guy and walk around and play the games, and yeah, we don't, we're not going to do CD optical media anymore. We're going back to cartridges, it was Nintendo it was innovation, risk, right place, right time, right price. The world is set afire.
I think that is significant because of the moment we were in, right? And I think it's significant that the Wii U preceded it, because you did have this kind of like misstep, huge success, misstep, huge success.
Yeah.
And so that the Switch launching at an incredible price point with incredible specs, even though, and when I say incredible specs, I don't mean like hardware. I mean like this idea of this system that could be docked to a TV or could travel with you. Like Nintendo is kind of creating their own market for this thing. It's not competing with the PS3, PS4. It's not competing with Xbox 360 or One. It's doing its own thing and doing it incredibly successfully. So
not competing with PC.
No.
It is creating a new segment, a new market, and a new type of gamer, right? It's almost like, I think you could, akin to Apple releasing the iPad and people going, what the heck am I going to use this for? And then they use it and realize, I could use this for everything. You know what I mean? Like, that incredible. Real quick, let's talk just through the launch and then fast follow games, because it is it's odd that it is not like the most impressive list of games. I mean, at launch, you did get Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, which also was available on the Wii U for those 15 million that owned the Wii U. And I am not a big Zelda fan. No. I'm not. I'm going to rephrase that because that is not accurate. I am a Zelda fan who has a strong preference for the older style of Zelda games, and I like my Zelda to have a little platforming in it too. And Breath of the Wild, it did not work for me at all. It represented a direction in Zelda that I didn't love. But people loved it, and as a launch game, I mean, it was, just selling like mad. Other launch games, 1-2 Switch, which was kind of like almost like a technical prototype a little bit.
And should have been a pack-in.
Should have been a pack-in. Boy, well, I think we're going to hear that phrase again in a little bit. I think
we are.
You got a couple Shovel Knight games, which were sort of, christening the eShop. Good way to do that with the very popular Shovel Knight series. I need to play that. You and I were chatting about that this week, and I really need to just get one and
they're excellent.
Yeah. And I'm looking at like Super Bomberman. You got Skylanders, which that's not even a thing anymore, is it? I mean, that's kind of
No, it's not. Which is kind of a shame. Skylanders is actually a pretty solid game. We kind of dug those in our family. I didn't like the toy aspect of it. But if you look past that, they were good little platformers.
Just Dance, which is perennial Just Dance, right? You know, people love them, people buy them. Not for me, but I know people who do, and that's cool. I like the Just Dance if it's at least got music that I can enjoy when other people are playing. And then you had the Fast Follow, which is within the following, which is in that quarter, I guess. And you had a big one, I think maybe the big one, which is Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which is the re-release of Mario Kart 8, but it's deluxe, which means it has tomatoes and mayo. If I understand Burger King upgrades correctly. Actually, do you know what makes it deluxe? I had Mario Kart 8 on the Wii U. I don't recall.
I believe it contains all of the DLC tracks.
Okay, all right.
I think that's what is the deluxe format. But then they went on and did more DLC tracks.
DLC, just loaded up. It's like they took a game that was great and just, they continued to make it just more and more awesome. I can't say enough good things about Mario Kart 8. And I'll get into the Switch. I'll have a few things to say about Mario Kart 9. But then they also tried a new Nintendo IP, a game I've never played and have no interest in. Maybe you can help me get interested in, and that is ARMS.
It's interesting that we're talking about the launch lineup because the Switch launched with Breath of the Wild, which is an incredibly strong launch game. And even though I am a massive Zelda fan, I was down for the changes in Breath of the Wild and the different format that it kind of took. Now, is it my favorite Zelda? No, not by a long shot. And I'm going to choose the kind of the more classic design for my personal favorites. But I thought Breath of the Wild was a fantastic game. But after I got my Switch, I got Breath of the Wild, and I played it, there was a drought of stuff on the Switch. And if you're looking at the launch titles and you're looking at the ones that quickly followed, I think I bought every single one of these. Not because I was interested in the games per se, but because I was like...
Every single launch title?
I'm looking at the list. I think I have them all.
Puyo Puyo Tetris.
Yes. So I don't, but even like Disgaea 5.
What is that? I was going to ask, it sounds like some sort of really bad, like, lower intestinal Disgaea.
It is a tactical RPG.
Okay, definitely not in mine. What's Redout? Did you buy Redout?
Redout is a F-Zero clone. And yes, I bought it, and yeah, it's pretty decent.
Yeah.
But the point that I'm making here is I bought every single one of these because I desperately wanted to play something on my Switch. So that includes ARMS. I bought it, and the only good thing I can say about it is my kids really got into it. So they still like ARMS to this day.
Okay.
But it is a one-on-one arena fighter. It's not great. It's not terrible.
Like a Rock'em Sock'em Robots, kind of? Like, that's what I see when I see it.
Kinda?
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, the whole point of it is your characters have these arms that can stretch across the arenas and attack. And it's kind of fun. And, I certainly had a lot of fun playing it with my kids, but it's no Street Fighter 2. Let's just say that. So as a fighter game, there are a ton more fighter games that I'm way more interested in playing than ARMS.
Not on the Switch, though. Man, the Switch has not got good fighters.
It's got, what do they call it? Super Street Fighter 2...
Anniversary, I guess, but that's a repack of...
Not the Anniversary. There was a different one. Let me Google for it. Real quick, because it's I had it and I loved it and I still do, but what did they call it? Ultra Street Fighter 2, which is a remake of Street Fighter 2. The graphics,
you know what, that's the one I've been meaning to pick up one, but I thought that they were all just repacks, which I'm like, I can just, okay.
No, this is a unique experience, and it only exists on the Switch. And I thought it was a launch game, but I guess not, because it's not on either of the lists that I could find for launch games. But dang, it's good. I mean, the biggest failing of it is playing it with Joy-Cons. So it's definitely a dock it and use a Pro Controller, or if you have a fighting stick, if you're like that into Street Fighter 2.
You know that I have a stupid collection of controllers that I have 2 of everything I want, including 8-bit DOs that are the SNES mimics. So I can assume I can play with the D-pad, right?
Yes, you can. Absolutely.
Okay, then I'm good.
And it's an excellent version of Street Fighter 2. And,
all right.
With my love of Street Fighter 2, that came out very early in the system's life. So I played a ton of that as well. So I'm very familiar with all of these launch games.
All right. What about The Binding of Isaac Afterbirth? That name's weird, so I never... He was like, Binding and Isaac, and I don't know about this one, kids.
The game is weird too. It's almost like a cross between the original Legend of Zelda and a twin-stick shooter.
That's very odd.
Yeah, it's a strange game. It's full of stuff that would make you uncomfortable, so I would not encourage you to go there.
Yep.
But again, extremely desperate for things to play on the Switch, and so I have played that game as well.
All right.
But, it took a while to get off the ground. And I don't know that a lot of people remember that because I think everybody was just playing Breath of the Wild.
True. I mean, Breath of the Wild was consuming the video game world, the console world, certainly the Nintendo folks, for a long time, even with the criticisms. And I know that not everybody shares my criticisms, but I also know I'm not alone in them. There's a lot of people that were like, more traditional. You did mention that you did have a favorite and it wasn't the traditional style. Could I guess? I'll take one guess. It is gosh darn it. It's what the heck is wrong with me? The other Nintendo 64 one that's not Majora's Mask.
Ocarina of Time?
Ocarina of Time!
No, you're wrong. That is not my favorite Zelda.
Is it Majora's Mask?
No, it is not. My favorite Zelda is Link to the Past, the Super Nintendo one.
Oh, okay. But you don't like the redo.
There is no redo of Link to the Past. Well, there was the Four Swords Adventure on GBA. You're thinking of Link's Awakening.
Oh, Link's Awakening. I get it. Okay. Snipper Clips is on the launch. Did you pick that guy up too? Because I've heard it's charming.
Sure did.
I was thinking maybe my daughter would like it, but
it is charming. And I think that we enjoyed playing that with the children and plugging that in. And we had a blast with Super Bomberman, which you disparaged earlier. But I'm a huge fan of the Bomberman games.
I am not. I find this like half a dimensional.
I love them. And so we would throw those on with 4 Joy-Cons and it would just be laughs in the living room for hours and hours and hours.
Okay. All right.
So, yeah, I'm a big fan of Bomberman. I like all of them. And we had the one on Switch, too. Still do, in fact. But, I played these massively and honestly played Switch almost exclusively until the launch of the Steam Deck. And that's really what got me off of Switch because going back to a comment you made earlier, I am that opposite guy. Like, I play my Switch in handheld mode more than I do in TV mode because it's always with me. If my wife is watching a show that I'm not interested in, I can have it in my lap. It's not distracting, and it at the time, especially, it made it to where I could play games and still be part of the family as opposed to just like, oh, dad's in the corner, on his PC or something like that. So it really was my number one gaming machine for most of its life. And it was only when a different, more powerful handheld came out that it kind of took a backseat in my gaming habits.
The Steam Deck was enough for you.
The Steam Deck opening up, basically any game that came out before the Steam Deck launched, it will play on the Steam Deck. So having access to a library that's even bigger than the Switch's massive, like 11,000 game library or something like that, and plus emulation is excellent on the Steam Deck. So the Steam Deck, if I could only have one video game device, it would be a Steam Deck. So I think highly of that.
It's and that emulation is what does it. If you had to look at just like if you took emulation out of it, I don't know if that's a fair thing. I mean, I guess, but
still, a huge PC library, that's pretty compelling. and you lose the Nintendo first party stuff. Yeah, but that's a huge, huge library of games. And I've been buying Steam games for as long as Steam's been around. So my library, I won't say the number because it's embarrassing, but my library is huge in Steam. And the fact that I just have access to the majority of those things is pretty compelling. But what the Switch did, and I think the Switch is a precursor to the Steam Deck, because I don't know that Valve comes up with that without seeing the massive success of the Switch. Right. But having that to kind of bridge the gap between console and handheld, because before that we had, Nintendo 3DS or Nintendo DS or PlayStation Vita or PlayStation Portable, which were great systems and great experiences, but it was not the same as the Switch, which really brought a new thing to gaming in 2017. And now in 2025, it's like, well, okay, you can figure out a way to play almost anything in a handheld form factor. But back then, that was revolutionary.
The quality of experience was high, right? It wasn't like there was no compromise. It's like, yeah, you can play it on your TV. It looks like this. And if you don't hold it on your hand, it runs at 3 frames per second, and you get 4 colors, right? I mean, there were hardware differences, but it was done. It was done for playability. And it was done in a way that it was acceptable. Sure, it's got lower resolution in handheld mode. Sure, frame rate may be different in handheld mode, but
it never felt like a compromise, which is what I think that you're kind of trying to say. So even though there was some technical wizardry that was happening in the background, it felt the same to play Breath of the Wild in handheld mode versus on TV mode. Like you're not suffering for it. And a lot of people will say that, well, later in the Switch's life, some of the later games are struggling to keep up. And Tears of the Kingdom is often cited as one that's a problem. And if you look at the numbers on paper, like I get it, but sitting and playing Tears of the Kingdom in handheld mode or having it docked in TV mode, I never felt like, oh, I'm suffering here. Like I never felt like I'm getting a bad experience.
Yep.
And to fast forward a little bit to talk about Switch 2, because both of those Zelda games are coming in Switch 2 editions. I've read some articles of people are like, oh, it's a whole new game and it's revolutionary. I struggle to imagine that, because I never felt like 30 frames per second in Breath of the Wild was causing me any harm. Like I never understood that kind of outlook on it. But maybe if I play it on Switch 2, I'll be like, oh, now I get it. I'm just doubtful of that.
I mean, let's kind of wrap up the Switch a little bit. I mean, I think a couple things from my point of view on it. Very rarely do I own systems when they are modern. I typically buy them when they're done. I can get them dirt cheap, and I owned Switch while it was still being sold in the store, so you could still go and buy games. And I bought some games like new, full price. I mean, I bought a perfect example is I bought Metroid Prime. And I got it for $30, right? It was on sale, which rarely happens, but this is a system that I liked that well and have that much fun with. Now I buy most of my stuff used and trade and all that stuff, and very active on Facebook Marketplace, to the annoyance of my wife, and I do not blame her. She's right to be annoyed at my constant wheeling dealing. Last night I was taking a break from some yard work, and I go, yeah, I found it. And she looks at me and is like, what'd you find? And I was like, I found Red Dead Redemption on Facebook Marketplace for $20. I'm so excited. She's like, what do you want? Okay, fine. I mean, there was like, she just puts up with me. But I was excited. It was $20. I've looked at a couple different places. Went and looked somewhere today to see if I find a better deal. No way. I can't find it used for less than 30. And most of the time, people are asking silly amounts for it. So anyways, I guess all that to say is I'm in on something video game wise while it's still current, which tells you how much that I really enjoy this. That's how awesome it is. I also will say that this is actually, I'm not 100%, but I won't be extreme on this either way. But my preference for digital versus physical, the Switch has convinced me that there is still a place for physical. And I think that the cool cartridges are easy to store. They're fun to collect. They have value after you're done with them, unlike the digital things. Maybe the future is going to change that. Don't know. That's something we'll talk about in a moment. But so that really changed me. And I do buy the digital games, but they had to be a really good deal. An example, a couple nights ago, I was like, you know what I want to buy? I want to buy a game I played that was a lot of fun called Broforce. Found it. Regularly $15. It's actually worth $15. Now, I could buy it for $15 on the eShop digitally when it's not on sale. Or on Amazon, I could buy it physically, but the eShop had it on sale for $1.99. So I just like, oh, okay, I'm just going to buy $1.99. And it was the deluxe version too, right? So like, of course I'm going to buy this, super Contra clone and for $1.99. Same price. I'm actually now going to buy the physical games. Might even pay a little bit extra. I can't fully explain it other than, trade fodder, and it's fun to have a bunch of little chips and say, woo, look, and I can Scrooge McDuck through my collection of Switch carts. It's fun. I mean, gosh darn it, I can't help myself. So it did change my mind a little bit there. Did you play Broforce, by the way?
I did, yes.
And what'd you think?
So for our listeners, Dave messaged me and he's like, hey, Broforce is $1.99, you should buy it. And I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. Someday. It's been on my list. I've just never gotten around to it. And then a couple of days went by and he's like, check your PayPal. And so I go to PayPal and there's $2 in my PayPal with a note that says buy Broforce. Yes. So I was like, fine. And I did buy it. I did play it. I have
That's
not.
what friends are for.
Exactly. I have not finished it. But the conceit of the game and how you're saving different, very obvious characters patterned after action movie archetypes.
Yes, your John Rambos, your Blades,
your McClanes. Yeah, so it's a fun game. I have not played as much of it as I need to, but it's a fun game. But as we're wrapping up the Switch, something that I want to touch on, and we won't be able to go into super great detail about it, but I think it's important to mention, is the Switch landed at a point where 3 years later we were dealing with COVID. And I think that helped the Switch become almost just part of the zeitgeist of the world at this time. People were needing something to do. Switch sales went through the roof. Animal Crossing sales went through the roof because that game launched right around lockdown. It was a social game. It gave you some connections that were missing in the real world. So there were a lot of things that just kind of came together that benefited the Switch. And I think Nintendo did an excellent job of being there and providing that kind of service for people when they needed it. I think the other thing the Switch did, and it probably doesn't get enough credit for this, is it really did a lot for retro gaming, which also saw a resurgence during COVID, where people started really, really getting interested in old games, and that kind of became de facto as opposed to just being a niche YouTube thing, right? But the Switch made a lot of really old games easily accessible, and this is outside of the Nintendo Switch Online library. You go to that eShop and you can buy so many like old Neo Geo games, so many old arcade games. It is a treasure trove of that kind of thing, and for not a lot of money, right? Like sub $10 for each of these things that I'm referencing. They're available, and having stuff like that is readily available, I think is huge. And it is someone who is interested in game preservation, I really appreciate that. Now, do I think there could be better systems for game preservation? Absolutely. But in a situation where there is a drought of really good ways to get a hold of some of these things, the Switch did a phenomenal job of that. And I'm still a physical media kind of person, but my Switch is loaded with eShop purchases because either they never had a physical version and it's a game I wanted, or like you were saying, you could get some really intense sales on that eShop. And, when it's $1.99, yeah, I'm going to buy it.
Man, that's sub $5 for a real legit game. You can't pass that up. And you know what? That's cool to have a digital collection like that. That also makes those for those developers, that option, that channel makes their game feasible, because they probably could not all of them could not go through the whole getting the, chip the carts from Nintendo and doing all that stuff. And, and doing the whole cheesy selling you the case for the download code is uncool, right? You still got to get store space.
I agree.
So, there is a place for digital games, but I will say that, I credit the Switch with opening my eyes to being over the top with my digital only preview. Nothing else has changed, right? Still that way with music, still that way with movies, but with games, yeah, I learned my lesson.
Not only did the Switch have a very successful life that will continue, but it's got a second breath, if you will.
We got a Super Switch.
I wish they had.
Ah, boy, I've seen lots and lots of debate on that. I don't. I fear that the Super Switch might have gotten a little too close to the Wii U situation.
It would have been fun, though.
Yeah, it would have been. I agree. It would have been fun. You know what would have been good? Like Switch 1, and then they could have called it the next one Switch Series 1.
Yes. Yeah, I'm with you.
And then just really confuse your customers.
Yeah, but they didn't. They went with Switch 2. And, you've already talked a little bit about some of the specs of what it can do. It's bigger, it's faster. It's got a C button, which is not what any of us thought it was going to be when they originally said that it has a C button. But it's a communication thing, and that's something that was a huge takeaway for me for the launch of the Switch 2, which is Nintendo is really pushing this like streaming multiplayer aspect of it, which the Switch kind of sort of had, and now it feels like a lot of the accoutrements that maybe people bought and added to their Switch, Nintendo is saying, oh, we're just going to build this into the console for you. I'm not sure any of that's for me. I don't have a Twitch channel. I don't play video games live online. I don't even play online with friends. Like if I'm going to play multiplayer games, I'm going to play them in my own living room with people. So some of that is kind of lukewarm on me. Like, I'm not going to lie. I'm not super excited about those features of the Switch 2. I'm not super excited about any of the Switch 2 launch games, I'm afraid to say. And I'm going to go really far and say I'm probably not going to get a Switch day one. I mean, they're going to have to put something on the system that really captures my imagination. And that is a rough take from me. I want to be the guy in line buying it day one, but I'm not feeling it.
Well, let's back up let's back up a little bit, because I unpack some of this, because I don't know if it's quite all that bad. Even your take on it, I think you're saying actually some things that are more positive than you realize. Let's just talk about you watch the presentation, and then you watch. The next day, there was a follow-up presentation which gave a little bit more detail, and you watch the commentators, and there's still confusion. There's still some, I'm not sure about the C button. I'm not sure about the game pricing. Was that, Australian dollars? I think that the first thing I'm going to say, and I'm generally very positive in Nintendo, the first thing I'm going to say is Nintendo made some mistakes, I think, with the way that they communicated. And I think they could have simplified some of their messaging. And I think some of their messaging was probably complicated because they were trying to do complicated things, like around the C button, right? When it, they might have just found a simpler way to package and sell that. I don't know why you need to pay for a feature. I think if you have Nintendo services online, you should just get it. Now, there's some confusion around that, because I've been told, no, if you have Nintendo services online, you do get it. It's only you have to pay for it if you want to use it with third-party games. And I'm like, I don't know if that's true or not. Again, it could be true. If that's true, that's needlessly complicated. But the fact that we are debating this just shows Nintendo didn't do a very good job of explaining, these new features. These new features are the reasons you're going to go buy the system. So I think that Nintendo made an error, had some errors there with their marketing and communication. I'm not sure this is the best time to release a system. I think for lots of reasons, but I think I would have held and put it closer to Christmas, when people are already prepared to drop big amounts of money on gifts, and let this be the gift. And so I think I would have started doing this around September, with a drop in late October, early November, built up stock and been ready to go. And I think there might have also been, who knows, right? But maybe more, maybe less world stability. I don't know, right? But certainly they did go in a period, and I know we don't get into this sort of thing, but I think it's fair to say there was a period of economic instability when dealing with matters of global trade. So I think that two things there on Nintendo's that I would say are my biggest gripes or criticisms, where I think they could have done better. More clearly communicate, so that people like me, who do generally live in this world and understand this, they don't have a bunch of questions. I even heard people like some of the YouTube commentators who are really plugged in, like RGT85 and Beat 'em Ups, guys who are plugged in. They know people in the industry at Nintendo who are making mistakes and coming back and revising it and saying, I missed this, I misunderstood this, still not sure about this. That tells you there was a problem when it should have been crystal clear, no room for error. And then a few days after your announcement, to get some weirdness going with pre-orders and not doing pre-orders, and NAM doing pre-orders, and maybe it's all about scalpers, which is cool, right? Or maybe it's not. I don't know. Not smart enough, and I'm not going to go down those roads. I do think Nintendo could have done some things better. Looking at the system, I look at it and I'm like, man, that looks really, really nice. But I'm good with my Switch for now. And I think that isn't necessarily a criticism of the Switch 2, as much as they made something really good and durable in the Switch 1. And that I think that there's a lot there. Because I was thinking, okay, what would it take? What would they need to do to make me, invest? And I mean, sure, you can always lower the price, I guess, right? I mean, no one compare, but I mean, market-wise, that's what powerful handheld systems go for. You look at the Rogue, you look at the what the Steam Deck is selling for, it's all inside that world of pricing. They're not off. The game, I am a little shocked. I am not shocked that games are at $80. I'm a little shocked Nintendo was the first to go to $80. And that they made Mario Kart that game. I mean, somebody was going to. Just a little surprised, especially when we were talking earlier about Nintendo during a period of time being the reliably less expensive system that was competing with these other systems that wanted to play your movies and stream your videos and be a cable box at one time. Remember Microsoft was messing with that blender? Yeah. And they were like, nope, we're going to be the game machine. We're going to, the values in the games, and we're going to price it as such. And they're the first to stretch into 80. Now, I know somebody did point out to me, a good friend pointed out to me, Dave, other people have been selling games for $80. Yeah, but those are usually like special editions and things like that, right? So this is just Mario Kart 8, Mario Kart 9 or Mario Kart World.
Mario Kart
right?
World. Yeah.
And maybe that there's that, you're paying a premium, right? Maybe DLC is free. I don't know, right? And maybe there's something like that. I can't believe they would do that because, that's recurring revenue is part of the models that keep these businesses running. So
yeah, they're not going to do that.
But I will say, I do not believe the system price. That one, I mean, of course, I always want it to be cheaper. I want everybody to be able to afford one. But when I look at the direction of systems of comparable power and capability, it's not. I wouldn't look at it and say, "Wow, that's out of line."
You're absolutely right, and your analysis is spot on. And when the Steam Deck first launched, I could not write my check to Valve fast enough. I was happy to pay that price, right? And so when the Switch came out at $450, I was like, I wish it were cheaper, but I get it, and I don't begrudge Nintendo at all for launching the console at $450. I do begrudge Nintendo for $80 and $90 games. I absolutely do, because I don't believe that it really needs to be that high. I don't think that it's an inflation play. I do think it's to combat inflating budgets, but I don't think Nintendo has those inflating budgets. And I'm really speculating here, and I want people who are listening to know that. Sony and Microsoft have the problem with the inflating budgets. It really seems to me like Nintendo is just saying, oh, well, the market can stomach this much for a game, so we're going to charge this much for a game. I don't think that Nintendo needs to do it from an economic perspective. And I think it's just the market will bear it, so we're going to reap the benefits of that. And I'm not pleased with that. Like, I would pony up $450 for the system, sure. $80 for a game, geez. And I know people are going to say, hey, that's only $20 more than you were paying, but $80, I'm going to be thinking long and hard about that. But let's be honest, there will come a point in my life where I buy a Switch 2, because that's just what I do. But my point is, Nintendo did not give me a compelling reason to fight for one early in its life cycle. They have not yet launched a game with it that either A, I can't get somewhere else, because they did have a lot of ports as launch titles for the Switch 2, or B, that is really a compelling argument for me. Mario Kart World, as much as I love Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Mario Kart World did not do it. I watched the presentation, and to be honest, the whole open worldness of it is kind of a turnoff for me, because that's just not where I live. It's not my preference. Yeah, I'm not into that kind of thing.
I mean, I don't see it as something that grabs me, but I also didn't see it as a turnoff. I'm not entirely certain that I see exactly what it means to gameplay yet, which could be,
And I could be wrong, right? Like, it could launch, and I could finally play it and be like, wow, Nintendo does it again. This is fantastic. But until Nintendo gives me a reason, I'm not excited. I'm not excited for Mario Kart World. I'm not excited for the Switch 2 editions of the Zelda games. I need a better reason than this. And maybe that'll be Metroid Prime 4 whenever that finally shows up. Maybe that'll be something that they've got in development that I have no knowledge of. But I know that will come. And I know that when it is a true new Zelda game or a true new Super Mario game, I'm going to be there, because that's just how I am. But for right now, I am content to wait and see what happens with the Switch 2 and worry about it when I can just walk into any store and be like, give me one of those and let me check out.
And that day will come. It might come sooner than you realize, right? Or, you know what I mean?
It might. That's true.
Okay, I think we are aligned on the hardware. I also think we have reached the point of diminishing returns on hardware. So, I don't know what else they're going to do next. I mean, honestly, I guess 4K in handheld mode, but there's a certain point where your eyes won't be able to see the difference.
I think we're already there, honestly.
Yeah, right. So I don't know. I do, and I'll mention one more thing, right? They should have had an included game. It should be that demo, introducing you to your Switch, whatever. I think that should have been packed in. I think it should have been a pack-in download, right? And teach you how to use the eShop and all that stuff. And the idea of charging for that is gross. It's gross. Yeah. I think that is there's some missteps. There's some silliness here. But I will say that one is the grossest of all.
And you asked what could they have done differently, right? Like, I mean, you had this massive success with the Switch, and the Switch 2 just being a bigger and better Switch. You're not begrudging Nintendo. I may begrudge them a little bit. I was hoping that it would not be just a bigger, more powerful Switch. I was wanting some Nintendo magic, whether that would be like a dual screen Switch or something that I was not expecting, but just to be like, oh, it's a 1080p screen now, it's a faster processor, the dock is 4K. That's a move I would expect from Sony and Microsoft. That's not a move I expect from Nintendo, which is to say, if I were in Nintendo's shoes, I probably would have done the same thing. I mean, you made a ton of money with the Switch, and if you just keep making more Switch, you're going to make a ton of money. I get it, but I was really hoping for that kind of, oh, I have to have this, and I didn't know I needed it kind of magic that Nintendo has done very, very well in the past.
Nope, didn't feel it here. That doesn't mean we won't get to it, right? It also is really tough to follow up a system like the Switch. It's almost like it had to be a letdown because the Switch was so good, right? I mean, what were they going to do? I do think the mouse mode looks pretty awesome. I'd like to try it and see how it feels, but it seems like a really clever, idea.
My prediction is it will be forgotten. I think you'll have the few launch games that make use of it, like the little golf thing that they demoed, and then I think no developer outside of Nintendo will use it, and then I think Nintendo will slowly stop using it, and then people will be 5 years from now when we're unpacking the Switch 3, we'll be like, did the Switch 2 have a mouse thing? And we'll be struggling to remember.
I don't know, but I don't know. I'm hopeful that they'll throw in some other first-person shooters that will make use of that, and
I can't imagine that even being ergonomically comfortable for a shooter. Like, to me, it's how they've demoed it, where it's this very casual thing. Like, I can't imagine using a Joy-Con on its side.
Okay, all right.
For any kind of lengthy gaming session.
You're really breaking my heart here, and I think you're.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm trying to find something, but.
I just call them like I see them. I'm happy to be wrong.
I think you and I are actually probably mostly in line. I do think though that that even if it ultimately is just a technically better Switch with some minor enhancements, in 4 or 5 years, it'll be the way you play your games, right? I don't think it's gonna grab folks day one, week one, year one quite the same way Nintendo had hoped. And I don't know honestly what they could have done to make it. I mean, I don't know, but I guess I'm not a Nintendo product manager, so I don't have to. Maybe the clamshell. Maybe that was the answer all this time.
I would have been there day one for. I'd be like, give me my clamshell Switch.
So I've got to ask you this. I have to ask you. Do you understand this virtual card thing at all? Because I think every time I think I understand it, I feel like I learned something new or I find a hole in my thinking. Do you understand the virtual cards?
No, I don't completely understand it. It seems to me that it is Nintendo's attempt to do account level licensing, but I feel like Nintendo should have just been like, look, your game licenses are tied to your account, and make it like Steam, where I can log into any PC with my Steam account and I can pick a game and I can play it. And the fact that Nintendo has to do that functionality in a very Nintendo way, which is to say, hey, look at this cute thing we built around it, and oh, look at all these ways that we're actually limiting your ability to use this. I just find it frustrating. So having dealt with a gaggle of Switches in my home, I'm grateful that there is a solution to be able to move games to different systems, because we've been in that situation before, right? Like, which Switch did we buy that game on? And we're trying to figure out which one we're going to play as a family. So I'm grateful that they're taking steps to alleviate that pain point. But I feel like, it's too little and it's too complicated. And I wish they would have just been like, it's tied to your account. Because honestly, I don't understand what they're trying to protect. Like, I don't think there's any great piracy thing that's happening amongst these cards. Maybe there is. Maybe I don't know, because I don't access the dark web, Dave. That's not where I live. But it seems like a whole lot of...
There is piracy. There is some, but I think it's really, really, really complicated and poor. But
yeah, I don't get it. So it's confusing, and it shouldn't be. It should just be... You want to play a game you bought? Log in, enter your password. I mean, why are we making it more complicated than that?
Well, so let's wrap her up here. Boy, on a downer. I started off loving Nintendo. Chris convinced me to hate Nintendo, and also I'm going to throw away all my physical games. No, I think that. Listen, I think that I'm not asking us to rank these systems here. I think that the Switch is obviously at the top end, right? I mean, you know, I am forever an NES fella, right? And nostalgia, place and time. But if I'm honest and I look at it, I mean, to me, the NES is right up there with NES, PlayStation 3, and Switch. And probably the Switch is on top because of the fact that it can play anything pretty much the NES does, and many of the PS3 games, although not exclusives. But I think it's just such an incredible system, and I love it so much that in retrospect, I got to put it right there at the top.
If we are excluding PC, I agree. The Switch is my number one console because it's the do everything console, right? I mean, it can play the classics, it can play modern games, it does it handheld, it does it on TV. A fantastic representation of video gaming. And if you're someone that's like, oh, I've missed the last 40 years of video game history, you know, how's a good way to dip my toe in it? The Switch is the answer to that question. So if I'm just going to list my personal favorite consoles, it's a bit of a janky list because it's got a lot of personal nostalgia built into it. But I'm going to go number 3 is the PS2, number 2 is the Game Boy Advance, and then number 1 is the Switch.
Yeah, Game Boy Advance has got to be up there. If you're a handheld guy, it's got to be. It's up to the tippy top.
And I love handheld gaming. I don't know why. I've always just been obsessed with holding something tiny in my hand and playing it. It probably goes back to my mom not letting me have a Game Boy. That's probably where it started. She hates it when I say that on the podcast too. She's like, "Did I really not let you have a Game Boy?"
You didn't deserve a Game Boy.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
I would defend your mom. Let's say, let's do this. Let's do this. Make a deal. In a year, let's come back and let's visit. Let's see where we are with the Switch 2.
Sounds like a great idea.
Let's see if it's, you know, have either of us gave in and bought it. I don't see myself doing it, but who knows? Who knows what could get released? I would say it would be very interesting to me. There's been a rumor that Xbox, Microsoft bringing some of their exclusives, even like a Game Pass type solution. Although Halo's a bit long in the tooth, boy, Halo as a Switch exclusive could be a shot in the arm for Nintendo. And they've been talking about that for a while now, or the last couple of years now, as it looks less and less likely that Microsoft's going to be able to continue to stand toe to toe with Sony, that they might find a way to make a partner out of Nintendo. But
that would be interesting. And I will go ahead and say that my prediction is in a year when we revisit this, I will have one. And now how I'll feel about it, that'll be really interesting to think. But within a year, I think they'll give me a reason to buy one. I just don't have a reason to fight for one on June 5th or whatever the launch day is.
I'm with you. I'm not going to. Well, don't wait a year to listen to us, folks. I think that some things you can do in this year, between this and the episode, we will probably put out other episodes between now and then, but listen to the previous episodes of our show. We have many dozens of episodes where we talk about video games, we talk about movies, we talk about music, we talk about Mike Nelson. We talk to Mike Nelson. We don't just talk about Mike Nelson. We have an interview with Mike Nelson of Mystery Science Theater. If you like any of that stuff, if you like silly middle-aged men who are balding at varying speeds, come and check us out. We would love to have you as listeners. Send us a note. Did you like this? Did we talk a little bit too much about the Switch? Are you confused about what a Switch is and you want us to start over? Any of those requests, we will do a podcast just for you, a personalized podcast just for you. That's how much we want to be your friend. Chris, can you tell us, our listeners, if they want to do any of this craziness, where they can reach out to us?
Absolutely. You can reach out to us at 2middleageguys.com. That is 2, the numeral 2, middleageguys.com. Go there and you can get a link to all the many places that you can access our podcast through RSS feeds. You can see us on YouTube, where we also post all of our episodes. You can get to our Facebook so that you can see, what we are talking about. You can send us a note. You can get to our email, send us a note that way. Many options, but you get all of that through twomiddleagedguys.com.
All right. And until next time, dear listener.